Hello, listeners. After our first episode with Dr. Rajiv Sinha, we were overwhelmed with questions and stories from our listeners. Clearly, this conversation touched a deep chord with you all. That's why we are doing a special follow up to explore what science and spirituality say about near death experiences. Once again, on behalf of Dr. Rajiv Sinha and the Awakening Trail, we want to thank all our listeners for showering love on us. And on behalf of you all, I would now like to re-welcome Dr. Rajiv Sinha on the Awakening Trail. Thank you so much for agreeing to do this, Dr. Rajiv.
Hari Om. Thank you. Thank you for having me on your show, Priyanka. Very happy to be back.
Yes, Hari Om. So, with this, let's begin with the first question from our listeners. Today, thanks to our listeners, I don't have to spend too much time, figuring out which question to ask you next. The questions are already given to us by our listeners. So, I'll go with the first question, and here it goes. Is there fear of death now after your NDE experience? And for people like us, what can we do to avoid it?
Okay. So let's have a look at this now. Like I mentioned in the previous podcast, you know, the the lack of fear of death is the first thing that happens when you finally become conscious. And a few days later, and for weeks and months that happen subsequently, you find that you actually have lost the fear of physical deaths. Right now,
Mm-hmm.
this is not an uncommon thing. It happens to almost everybody, and the fear of physical death is gone. Okay, but Priyanka, the my understanding is that there is no such thing as a fearless human being. Okay,
Absolutely.
everybody is fearful of something. Okay,
Correct.
like there may be a soldier who's not scared of physical death or disability or getting hurt or getting injured, but he may be very scared of the income tax authorities. Okay. So, all
Yeah.
right. Okay. Or he may be very scared of his mother in law, right? Very fearful of her. Now, so, there's no such thing as a fearless person. So, yes, the physical fear goes, but there are
Mhm.
types and types of fear. Um, but they don't really when you're having the NDE or even post NDE, right? Those fears stay with you. Okay, like for example, uh, supposing I was to say that you know I can take a risk. I'm not afraid of physical injury, and I do things like skydiving or doing underwater exploration, a little dangerous things. That's okay.
Yeah.
That part is okay. But there are other fears which manifest, which stay with you even after the near death experience. Okay. Physical fear, fear of physical problems goes away without a problem, but other fears always do stay out and you have to work through them. They, for that matter, I would even go to the extent of saying that the other fears become more relevant because suddenly you're concentrating on those particular fears. So if you're doing some self exploration, if you're looking at your personality, if you're looking at yourself during your meditation or whatever it is, you do come across these other fears, but you have the ability now to address them. Okay, that's what I would like to
Right.
say. So yeah, fears go, physical fear disappears, but other fears cannot disappear because they're connected to other parts of your psyche, to other parts of your existence. Okay, so they
Correct.
don't go. All right.
I,
Now, the second part of your question, what can we do to try and address this? Yeah.
yeah.
Now, um, you know, everything in life requires preparation. Okay. I mean, nowadays, of course, you have preschool and then you have school. Now, preschool prepares you for school entry, school prepares you for college entry prepares you for professional education, professional education prepares you for a profession, right? A profession prepares you for becoming an adult, a responsible person, perhaps a family person. Okay, and so on and so forth. So everything requires preparation. Nothing can be done without preparation, right? You understand me, na? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So here, once again, I mean, if you all you have to do, I mean, all you have to do is very easy to say, but essentially, you then now have to start addressing the fact that there are that you have to start preparing, right? You see, you can shed anything. I mean, you don't want to go to school and don't want to go to college and don't want to get married and don't have a family. Yes, you can drop all that. Yeah, you can't drop deaths, Priyanka. That's the
Correct.
inevitable. I mean, certainly
Correct.
not. So why? I mean, it really amazes me that we do nothing to prepare ourselves for the most inevitable incident of our life. That's death. Okay, nobody can escape that. Okay, why do we not prepare ourselves? I mean, why is it such a taboo subject? Why is it that we don't look at it in holistically to try and understand that here's something which we are going to face ultimately one day or the other, right? You cannot put it off. So why not do a little preparation, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Um,
In fact, glad that
yeah,
you touched this subject. When you were answering this question of our listener, right? One, I thought today I will not ask questions of my own, but one question popped up, right?
yes,
I, in fact, wanted to understand for my own benefit and for our listeners' benefit too. See, death is inevitable, right? Now, you're talking about all of us, accepting it, right? And that is something all of us as human beings, somewhere down the line, we forget about it and we enjoy life as if, we are immortal, right? So, what do you mean by we should prepare for it? We should accept death. How do we do that?
I think the fear of death basically for any normal human being, I would think the fear of death comes when you're closer to death. When you're young and you're enjoying life, death is the last thing you want to actually think about, and that's the last thing that comes into your mind because you're so busy with things that are happening and you're so happy with things that are happening. Death ke bare mein kyun sochne ka? Why do you want to think about death, right? But once you cross the age of 60, right, and there are fewer years ahead of you, right, and many years have gone by, and then you start thinking if you fall
Yeah,
ill, okay, or if you're disabled in some way, or if you're diseased, have a disease, then of course the problem becomes even more acute. But assume
correct.
that for a normal person who is not, ill, who is perfectly healthy, right? There is no logical reason why he or she should be thinking of death at all. Okay,
Absolutely.
until the
Mhm.
time comes when suddenly your mortality comes for you, come face to face with your mortality, and then you start thinking about death, isn't it, right? So
Correct.
what do you
Correct.
do to prepare for this, right? I think the first thing would be there is a pre-death and a post-death situation here. I mean, this is my take on it. Like I've said to you, everything here that we are discussing is essentially subjective. Okay,
Absolutely.
because these are my experiences and they are not necessarily universal truths. So let's make this distinction very clear, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, I think when you start talking of pre-death, right? The idea is to be in as good health as possible, right? Now, means to say what? I mean, when you as you get older, it is when you're I mean, looking at your body, at your physical self, it's not strength that you're looking at as you get older, right? It is mobility that you're looking at. Okay?
Yeah.
You shouldn't be creaking and you shouldn't be creaking and you shouldn't be paining and all that sort of stuff. Now, for this, we have this wonderful system which belongs to India. It's called yoga. Okay, I
Yeah.
would suggest,
Yes.
and there are yogas and there are yogas and there are yogas. Okay, all different types of yoga. But there is still a very basic yoga exercises which, if you do right, you will stay by and large. Your body will stay mobile. Your body will stay flexible. Right, you will
Yeah.
not
Yeah.
stumble. You will not fall. Right, you will do your meditation. Right, your mind will stay clear. All right. So these are the basic things that you can do pre-death. Okay.
Correct.
Now,
Correct.
while you're alive, how do you address things that will happen post-death? Right? Huh? Now,
Yes. Yes.
the first, I mean, of course, it's easy for people to sit and listen to a podcast like this and say, here, look at Dr. Sinha now. He's talking like this, etc., etc. The thing is, nobody can give you 100% as to how you prepare for death post death. See, like I said in my previous podcast, right? When you take your final breath, you go into this little dark space. Yeah, for a while. You go into a dark space for a while, and from there, at least for the people who have NDE who will testify to this, you ultimately get into a situation where you have this light that you see and you merge with the light. Remember
Correct.
this. Okay.
Yes, you mentioned that.
Now,
Yeah.
now, now, what is there to fear is a lot of people get afraid that I'll be entering into a dark space where there will be no sight, there will be no sound, there will be no smell, there will be no sensation or feeling of the body, which are things that by which we exist. We exist on sensory inputs, na? Even now, you're looking at me, I'm looking at you, right? I'm sitting in a particular place, I'm feeling the breeze on my face. Now, these are things that ground me. These are things that give me a sense of reality, right? But once you're dead and your body is no longer functioning, then all these sensory inputs go, right?
Yes.
You enter
Yes.
the dark space. Now, there is nothing to be scared of the dark space. And I'll draw an analogy. When you go to
Okay.
sleep, you close your eyes. When you go to sleep, you close your eyes, right? You can't
Yes.
sleep with your eyes open. Hmm?
Yeah.
Are you scared of that dark? The answer is no.
Not at all.
Answer is
Not at
no.
all.
Not at all.
Yeah.
Not at all, right? It's a warm, comforting darkness which leads you into dream state or which leads you into sleep. You don't get scared of it. When you're meditating and you're trying to cut out all the sensory inputs possible, right? Once again, in that meditative space, right? The place, this dark space is called Chidakash. Okay. It's a dark space right in front of your eyes. Okay. And in Chidakash, we all enter into Chidakash during meditation, right? We all enter into Chidakash when we close our eyes when you're going to sleep, and there's nothing to be scared. Okay,
Yeah.
right? It's the same thing. It's the same thing, right? Now, in this dark space, you are there with your thoughts.
Right.
You as an entity are there with your thoughts, right? Now, so what happens in that dark space, how long you stay there, is again dependent upon you. Right. If you prepared things for a happy passing away, right? If you sorted out your financial affairs, if you sorted out most of the things that you are connected to on earth, right? If you come to the understanding, perhaps that these are things that you cannot affect once you're dead.
Right.
Okay. Once you realize that many things and almost everything cannot be affected once you've passed on, right? You cannot physically touch your partner, your children, your
Yeah.
colleagues, right?
Yeah.
You cannot carry out repairs to your house. You say, "Hey, this is breaking down. Why is nobody looking after it?" Right? XYZ is happening. This water tap is leaking. Why is not somebody looking after it? Okay. Now, these
Yeah.
are things that you cannot affect, right? So basically there are, I mean, if you if you do the preparation that I will try to sort out, see, no, you can't sort out everything before you die. Everything cannot be sorted out. There are always things that will be left behind. You agree?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Now,
Yes.
in this, yeah, but do the best that you can, right? And then come to the realization that, see, I can't sort out everything. Okay. I can't look after my children anymore. I can't affect the way they are going. I can't sort out my spouse anymore. I can't be there as a physical entity helping him or her to navigate life, right? Once you come to this realization, I think that is a great thing. And that is how you prepare for a peaceful passing on, right? वो बोलते हैं ना, as they say ना, try to drop everything, try to drop as many things as you can, things that are not essential, right? But it's not just the physical things that are not essential. It's the mental things that are very essential to drop. Physical things are easy to drop. I mean, you have no choice. You cannot physically intervene anywhere, right? But to
So
mentally drop
basically,
attachment.
what you're recommending, doctor, here is practice detachment. Can we put it this way? And with that, I remember, correct me if I'm wrong, like my life experience is not as vast as you, but what I understand is the lamas, right? In the Tibet or lamas in general, they put this nice, I don't know what is the technical name of it, the rangoli, which they put hours in putting it together. And the very next moment that art is ready, they just, clean it or swipe it away. So I think that is the practice that lamas follow to ensure that, such a pretty artwork that they have put it together with lot of focus and attention. And to learn detachment, the next step is just to, clear it off. So is that how we can look at things, right? Start detaching yourself with materialistic things, or things that are happening around in your life. Is it good to say that way?
Yes, I think that what you're saying is absolutely correct. It's a physical detachment, but also, like I keep on saying, the more difficult part is the mental detachment. Okay. Now,
Yeah,
I'm not saying
yeah,
that, while you're still there, while you're still alive, right, and your family's around you, you suddenly say, I'm not going to talk to anybody. I'm not going to do X, Y, Z. No, 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 no. You have to detach in the way to understand that you are not going to be able to affect all these things that you're seeing around you, right? You will coming to a point where your interaction with these things has to go, right? And the
got it.
more baggage you hang on to, right, the longer you will perhaps stay in the dark space. Okay, the longer you
Hmm,
stay in the dark
got
space.
it.
I mean, one
Yeah,
of, yeah, so, like, and the longer you stay in the dark space trying to tackle things, okay, the more the more difficult it is. If you do a little preparation and understand that detachment is a very important thing, you can't detach yourself immediately overnight. It's a
yeah,
long painful process. Okay, it's a long painful process. Well, not necessarily painful, but it is not a process that, everybody likes to get into. But ultimately, I think it is the most essential thing. Detachment is the word, but detachment with pleasure, detachment with happiness, not detachment with a sense ki, oh, I'm going to be deprived, not a sense of detachment with sadness. Oh yeah,
mm,
see,
yeah,
the detachment is going to happen, right? You have to make a conscious effort towards detachment. Okay, it goes
correct.
for both things. It goes for good situations, it goes for bad situations. And if you're going to try and say, I'm going to detach myself from XYZ painful situations, well, you also have to understand that that you also have to detach yourself from supposed happy situations. They both work together. No, they're
Correct,
both
correct.
sides, they're both two sides of the same coin.
Yeah, yeah, yes,
That's it.
yes. Perfect. Thank you so much, for addressing this first question. So before I move to the next one, I just have one quick question. Maybe you can take a minute or so to answer this. We talked about detachment. You said that we have to practice. All that is true. But you know what? One thing just popped in my head, right? They say, right, when you die, usually what happens is you get all the bad karmas that you did. You get the flashback of everything that you did bad in your life. Is it true? And if that's the case, how do we prepare for that as well,
Um,
right? Because
You mean to say? Are you trying to say that you get a flashback when you're trying to detach yourself? You mean after you're dead, you get this flashback of things that happened to you? Is that what you're
ऐसे
saying?
कहते हैं ना कि like it is said, right? I don't know, I've not experienced the NDE part of it, but it is said generally, right? कि बुरा मत करना, आपको उसके फल फेस करने पड़ेंगे when you die. So what I read or heard in few podcasts is that like when you actually die, whatever bad that you did to people is generally that comes back to you and that haunts you when you die. Is it true?
A lot of people who undergo an NDE undergo what is known as a life review. Okay. Means
Oh wow.
supposedly
Okay.
your life flashes in front of you. It's like a film, right? Very rapidly, you go through most of the major incidents of your life, right? Now,
Correct.
in all
Correct.
honesty, I did not have a life review. I did not get a life review, right? I've read
Okay.
lots and lots of NDE accounts where a vast number of people do undergo a life review. All right.
Yeah.
So the
Yeah.
question arises here that when I'm reviewing my life and I see that I've done certain negative things, I've done certain hurtful things to people, right? Is it going to be a bad situation? Well, on
Yeah.
one side you have a review, but a review is like an examination, but there is no pass and there is no fail. Okay, it is
Correct.
just a review is a review, right? You're looking at all these incidents, right? Um, because simultaneous to this is what happened to me, is simultaneous to the life review, or simultaneous to what is happening, you are also being exposed to the Paramatma. Okay, you're being exposed to a huge amount of positivity, right? You're being introduced to a huge amount of non-judgmental love. Okay, which
Mm,
doesn't
mm,
care whether you were good, whether you were bad, whether you were indifferent, whatever it is, right? It doesn't care. It loves you. It loves you anyway, right? And that's why. what this life review is, while it's a good thing for you to look at, and perhaps later on, I mean, once you fuse with the Paramatma and you're perhaps on your way back to a new birth, right? Perhaps the review of your life gives you an indication of what more do you need to do in your next life, right? Now, again, I'm no
Yeah.
expert on this. I mean, I can't say, but it would seem logical that you take the inputs from your previous life, right? Realize the deficiencies, and therefore your new life should have something meaningful where you can take the whole process forward. Huh? Like, after all,
Fair
we
enough.
say one of the things that you understand during your NDE, that life is nothing more than a learning experience. Okay,
Yeah.
the whole of life is nothing more than a massive learning experience. You take this learning back, and like I said to you last time, you lay these learnings which are unique to you at the feet of Paramatma, right? And then, taking these learnings, you decide what you need to do next lifetime. Okay, now
Fair enough.
without
Yeah.
without having this, and people sometimes ask, they excuse me, why is it that we forget what happened in our previous lifetime? Okay.
Yeah.
Now,
Yeah. Yeah.
you can't really carry, I mean, look at it logically. How can you carry the baggage of previous lifetimes into your next lifetime? You can't. Okay. I mean, you've been reborn a million times, a billion times. Okay. Do you really want to carry the baggage of a billion lifetimes before into your next life? No, that will defeat the very purpose of the next birth. How will you move forward? I mean, this is a plain logic. I mean, this is not rocket science, so to speak. Okay. So it's imperative that you forget. There are a lot of people, a lot of children, okay, who remember for some time their previous birth, their previous lifetime. There are
Yeah.
lots of there are lots of recorded incidents of people recalling their previous lifetime. They tell their families that, I remember being born in so and so place, and they go there, and the child is able to recognize a cupboard, a home, a person. Aisa hota hai. Okay. As you
Yeah.
grow
Yeah.
older, if I'm not mistaken, as you grow older, then these memories of your previous lifetime start disappearing. I had a niece who had this, and she could, at the age of 3 years, she could speak Urdu. Now, that's amazing because we're a Hindu family. Now, how she's speaking Urdu at the age of 3 and 4 years? But by the time she was 5, she totally forgotten the Urdu. Okay, we were a Hindu
Hmm.
family. There's no way that she could have learned Urdu from anywhere in our homes. Okay.
Yeah.
There was no internet in those days. So it's not as though she was clicking onto some site and learning Urdu on the sly, right?
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
she knew
And
Urdu.
a 3 year
Okay.
3 year
And
old, right?
she would talk about, yeah, she was three
And
years
a
old.
three. Yeah.
Yeah. But by the time she was 5, she'd forgotten the Urdu completely. Okay. So, yes. So, what I'm saying is, children do remember these things. There are incidents where, they do show you and exhibit to you places where they were born. But this gradually fades away because it's logical that you can't carry the baggage of a previous lifetime into this lifetime. Yeah.
Got it. Yeah. Thank you so much. I think it's time for us to now move to the second question. It is a bit deeper. In fact, all the questions are quite deep. The listener is asking, I have cancer or other life threatening diseases with lot of pain. Do we still have pain after we die?
No physical pain. Okay, there is no physical pain because there are no physical. When I was going under, right? Now, I don't forget, I had a broken arm, right? I
Yeah.
crashed into the ground, I fell on my face, bruised my chest, right? I didn't There was no pain. There is no physical pain. Okay. Because
Okay.
those the pain receptors are not functioning anymore. Okay, so there is absolutely no pain. So, actually, in that way, if you look at it, death is your best friend, right? For an old person, for a person who's got some sort of a disease, right? It is not some fancy esoteric gods and things that come to assist you. It's death that comes to assist you. No, it takes away your
Yeah.
suffering, it takes away the stiffness of your joints, it takes away the pain of your cancer, it takes away all the pains of your physical life. Okay, so death is that way. Death is your best friend. Okay, it does for you what nobody else, what no doctor, what no spiritual guru, anyone can do for you. It takes away your physical pain. But the other thing, there are other types of pain also, Priyanka. Okay. Now, supposing you've
Yes.
been very ill, supposing you are a cancer patient, right? Now, it's not just a physical pain you go through. There is also people who are connected to you, your spouse, your children, right? Various people who care for you, right? They and you both undergo a lot of mental pain also. Yeah, you understand, right? It's not just the physical pain. They undergo a lot of mental pain also, right? And this mental pain is something that stays for a while. Okay, like for example, let me tell you, when my last what was my last conscious thought when I was dying. This may sound very strange. The nurse who'd given me the injection, which knocked me out and killed me, so to speak, right, was blameless. It was my stupidity and my arrogance that led me to tell her that I'd had a penicillin sensitivity
Test.
test done, and therefore
Yeah,
she
yeah.
could go ahead and give me the injection. Okay. Now, my last conscious thought was, oh God, what have I done? This poor lady is going to catch hell from the authorities, all because of my stupidity and my arrogance. Right? That was my last conscious thought on earth. Regret
Mhm.
and pain that I had inadvertently done wrong to another human being.
Yeah.
So there was no getting out of that. That was my last physical thing. That was my last physical thought. But then, of course, the light and so on and so forth. So this also faded into the background. But this was my last physical thought, that I have done an injustice to another human being, and that is not the right thing to have done. Okay. So there was that mental pain. And so I think some mental pain will have to does stay with you, right?
Yeah, yeah. So I think what I understand, Dr. Sena, here is, as you rightly said, right, you will definitely face what you have done, right or wrong, during that small fraction of seconds. And then eventually, because you see the light, because you see the Paramatma's love, you tend to, make that switch over from the dark phase towards the light.
That's
So
right.
this is, yeah, great, great. So with this, we move to our next question. What is your take on ghost, devil, vampires, etc.? Did you believe them earlier? I'm not. I think this question is coming from Gen Z.
Yeah.
uh,
No,
so there is.
no, not really. But if you talk of ghosts and vampires, they're completely different things. Now, I mean, what is a ghost? I think a ghost is an energy, or basically could be a soul which has not been able to successfully transit from this existence into the next.
Yeah,
So it's
yeah,
trapped in this limbo. Okay, trapped in the
yeah.
limbo, not able to go here, not able to stay here, not able to go across, right? And unable, like I said, to affect anything physically or mentally, right?
Mm,
So
mm.
it's in a sad situation, and they could exist. They probably do exist. There are many troubled souls who do hang around, okay, who are not able to let things go. I mean, perhaps it's people who had a very traumatic death, or who had a lot of trauma before they died, right? Or their attachments are very, very strong to this reality where they used to exist, and they're not able to go. Now, you know that is very sad. It is sad, and it's a very, very possible, right? I'm not saying whether I believe in it or I don't believe in it. I'm just saying it's well within the realms of possibility, right?
Okay.
You asked about vampires. Now, vampires, I think, are a European invention, or a European concept, where there's a creature which is, well, supposedly it is not of this. It's different. It requires the energy, the blood of a human being, another human being, to survive, and so on and so forth, right? Now, here, as a Hindu, we don't have any such thing. We don't have any such thing as vampires, right? We don't have any such thing. So I really have no opinion on this, right? And lastly, the devil, right? Now, the devil is a
Yeah,
very devilish question. It's a very devilish question, okay? Uh, because in Christianity and in Islam, right, you have God and you have the devil, the evil
yeah.
and the good. Okay.
Correct.
Yeah, okay. So there could be I mean, there is very possible that the devil represents your negative energies and God represents your positive energies. Okay. But the devil as a reality, winged creature with a little horns on the head, and so on
Onida
and so
wala.
forth. हाँ,
Onida TV head.
हाँ, हाँ, जो देखने को मिलता है with all these powers to do these things, right? I don't really have a take on that because I'm not so. I mean, it's as a Hindu, I don't really have much understanding or any background for the acceptance of a devil. We don't have a devil in Hinduism. We don't have any such thing as a devil.
Correct, correct. So, with that note, Dr. Sinha, we would like to end today's episode. And for our listeners' benefit, it is going to be a series of episodes, where we are going to get all our questions answered from Dr. Sinha. There are many more questions that are come in, but we want to address them. We want to spend time on each and every questions that are come. So, which is why we decided to do a series of this question answers with Dr. Sinha. So, thank you once again for joining in and taking these questions.
My pleasure. Thank you. And before concluding, I'd just like to say once again that all the things that I've said basically are subjective. They are personal to me, right? I'm no spiritual guru or I'm no enlightened person, right? Who can hold forth. These are things that I have experienced and I have come to the conclusion myself. They could be completely wrong. They could be completely right, right? But basically, everything in life is subjective. Okay. And this
Correct.
too is a completely subjective thing. Okay, so on that note, I want to thank you once again, and for people who had the patience to go through and listen to this for the last 30 minutes. Yeah, Hari Om, and thank you.
Yeah.
Bye.
Hari Om. Hari Om. Thank you.